Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Peanut Butter Neya Time. Hope you guys have got your jar of peanut butter ready and we're in for a new episode. So today I want to talk to you guys about my experience with entrepreneurship, just specifically one of my ventures that I tried out, which is probably the one that I did the most like full-fledged. And what I learned from entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is hard. Just like starting a business is hard. But let's talk about this. Let's break it down. All right. So I'd like to call this episode the time in my life when I ran a bakery. So I grew up always watching my dad bake. He's really, really good at baking, has always had like a very strong passion for it, very good. And he used to like sit in front of the oven when I was growing up and just like watch the cakes rise. And I also have a habit of doing this. It's very fun. So yeah, dad loved baking. My sister and I think both just like learnt by watching my dad cook a lot and like bake. We just naturally were drawn to it and we enjoyed baking. My sister was really good at baking / is still really good at baking. She's like a very slip, slop, slap baker. I feel like anything she puts together always tastes good. I started baking more like maybe when I was like 19. I was like, ooh, this is fun. Like, look at me make cupcakes. Look at me try these things. And I've had lots of fun trying like croissants and or croissant if we're being fancy, like sourdough bread, cinnamon buns and cinnamon rolls. Really fun. I really, really enjoy baking. And I know there's like baking is definitely more of a science. Oh, that's like actually that's a pretty controversial like statement to say, but I feel like baking is more of a science than just like general normal cooking. Like unless you're a fine dine chef or like you're really, you're I mean, just for the layman, all right, baking is more like science than cooking like a normal noodle dish. That's what I think. Anyway, so yeah, baking is so much fun and I always enjoyed it. And when I was living in Myanmar, I remember I used to bake cookies, and so I brought them into work one day, and my colleagues were like, "Whoa, these are so good! Like everyone really loved them." And I was like, "Oh, that's very kind." I mean, just baked them casually. And then I remember one of my colleagues, who's also my really good friend, was like, "Oh my God, your cookies are so good! We should start a bakery business." And I was like, For some reason, like people have said things like that randomly before about other things, but for some reason I was like, yeah, you know what? Why not? Let's try it out. And so this kind of inspired this like unraveling of multiple months of fun that we had. And we kind of we were like ran with the idea and we're like, let's do it. Let's start a bakery, specifically like a cookie business. So the reason that you could do this in Myanmar is just because it's like generally deregulated when you're starting a business. And I have to kind of explain the landscape to make you understand this if you've never been to Myanmar. So there's like, if you live in the US, there's like no FDA. If you live in Australia, there's no like central council that has like rules on the level of how things should be. And no one's really like out there making sure that you are like paying business tax and setting up a business and all this stuff. So you can kind of explore and try out different things without really like registering a business, and you can just test it out for fun, see if it works. So I think that was a really good that was a reason why I was like, okay, you know what, why not? Like I feel like the barrier for entry is quite low and let's just try it out. And so the second thing was also there was a very large gap for baked goods in Myanmar. There was like the classic bread top type of bakeries that do the Chinese style bread that's like very sweet, but not that many people were doing, I guess, like artisanal or gourmet baked goods. So I was like, well, why don't we try out like starting with cookies and do like gourmet cookies and then see where this goes. Mind you, I had only lived in Myanmar for maybe like, I want to say like 3 months, but I was like, yeah, why not? Let's just give this a try. And my friend is a local, so I think it helped that she knew the market and she saw the opportunity as well. So I wasn't like just blindly as an expat going in there and like, let's start a cookie business. Anyway, so we did our due diligence and we started doing like market research. We went out there, we tested all these different cookies from different cafes or like small stores. And generally across the board, like no one was doing my style of cookie, which was like kind of like a levain cookie. I love a levain cookie. So more like thick, gooey in the inside, very like a bit like a cake, but not a cake. Everyone was doing more like the biscuit, hard, crunchy, like very thin. So it was perfect. Like it was a great opportunity for us to enter into the market. So then we started testing flavors. Like I would make batches, and that's the thing. Like when you go from recreational baking to like, oh, you got to start a business, you got to get consistent. So you got to be doing like the same recipe in bulk, consistently. And I think that was kind of stressful, and something that you don't really realize when you're like, oh, let me just take this great, like it's like, I make this great cake. Can you do that 1,000 times over to the exact same standard? That is the challenge, I think, when you like really transfer something from just a normal like small layman cake to in something like grow it to scale. That is the difficulty. I think that's like a difficulty with most products. So that's something that I learned very quickly. So we did our market research and we saw that there was a gap, and we kind of figured out our pricing based on that. So we were charging, like 2,500 or 3,500 chat. So Myanmar chat per cookie. So that was about $2.50 Australian or $3. And it's just like you could not charge more than that because the average income and the value of the Myanmar chat was quite low. So like in a third world country, essentially you just cannot charge more than that. And that was already like quite a premium price. So once we kind of figured out our cookies and what flavors we wanted, we tested them and kind of got consistent with what we were going to produce. The other step was figuring out our branding. Like I don't think we had ever actually done like logo creation and branding creation. At least I hadn't. I know my partner had done a bit of work around like starting her own like travel business. So she had an idea of that setup. So luckily we had some connections who helped us design like a logo. I remember I was trying to make a design on Photoshop and Canva, and honestly, it just wasn't the same. Like you need to really, having a graphic designer and having that eye is such different take on things. That's why graphic designers are very sought after and very valuable in life. They can really help create a different feel and vibe. So we had a really cute logo. If you're watching the video, this is what it looked like. Very cute. I thought it was very nice. It was called the Bite Myanmar. And the Bite Myanmar just sounded right. Like it was so cute and it was just perfect. I loved it. So yeah, we started the Bite Myanmar. We made a Facebook page. We did a photo shoot. So we had one day where I just baked all these cookies and we took photos of them. We also had to find packaging, which was like super hard to find the right packaging. We had to test out different types of packaging, like how that would work. And I remember we initially went with like a box that was one of those boxes that you collapse in the sides and it goes flat at the top, and then you hinge it into like the little, like the tabs into the other cardboard, and it creates like a little box. Quickly learnt that those were like not great for longevity in terms of the box was like very easy to break. It didn't keep them like air sealed, so they were able to get like dry or stale really easily. So we ended up switching not long after that into like brown like paper bags that were resealable at the top, and that was perfect. And we got sticker logos printed off, and we were able to stick them on. But it was very cheap in Myanmar to just go from 0 to 100 and set up like a business. Like our investment in was very low. What we also had to do was I think our biggest investment was buying a mixer, and we went to like scout out the different mixers, and we ended up buying like a Kenwood, a decently sized Kenwood, but not like at a commercial level. We're like, this is enough for now. It should do the job. And if we need more, we can always increase. And honestly, like we went into this blindly. I was just thinking, we'll maybe sell like 20 cookies. It would be really nice. And then see what happens from there. So I think it took us like 2 months to kind of pull all the initial stuff together, do all the branding, the packaging, the testing of the flavors, and then set up our Facebook storefront. So speaking of Facebook, it's actually so wild, and this is probably something that most of you won't know, but in Myanmar, Facebook is king. Facebook is literally like, it is the internet. You know, you have Google for us. We have like you have a web browser that we go in and type in on. They don't do that in Myanmar. It's like straight to Facebook and Google anything in Facebook. Any like company, any person, any like food brand, restaurant, dresses, like clothing, everything is direct to consumer through Facebook, which is so crazy because I feel like I stopped using Facebook about 7 years ago and I only have it to like chat to people that I don't have on WhatsApp and things like that. But in Facebook, it's crazy how heavily it is used, and people in Myanmar are like Facebook celebrities. Like they'll have like 3 million followers and they'll like do all their live comments there. So I reckon Myanmar is like solely keeping Facebook alive just purely by how important it is for like socially and just like economically, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. So because Facebook was literally like Google, you could just set up a Facebook storefront and a page and then just start posting content, and that it was so easy. I think like the barrier for entry for marketing was really easy. And we created an ads page, like an ads account, and then we just started putting up an ad and targeting a few people. And let me tell you about, this was absolutely wild because I don't ever like buy anything off a Facebook ad, or barely ever off an Instagram either. Instagram ad or general internet ads. Just don't buy things off ads, because I feel like I'll generally, from people I know as well, it's very untrustworthy to see a Facebook ad. You're usually like, you're going to scam me. This is not a real company. But in Myanmar, you put an ad out there, like people will engage with it, like, and buy. The conversion rate is insane. Like that click-through rate and that conversion rate, like blows my mind. So we put this ad up, okay, and I was like, we'll get 20 orders, maybe for like 3 cookies each. Honestly, I really didn't think I thought maybe I would make 40 cookies that day, max. Even though that math before doesn't add up to that, but just letting you know. And so we put this ad out and we got so many inquiries. Honestly, I think in 2 days, we had 99 cookies to be made. And when I tell you I was stressed, I was stressed. We had to turn off the ad and bring it down, because I was like, I'm not equipped to make 99 cookies this weekend. I had to package them, and like we had to make them, package them, check them, like get them delivered. And delivery is another thing. Let's talk about that separately. But it was crazy. So that is the power of Facebook in Myanmar. If that demonstrates enough, like that, if it demonstrates anything, it just shows how insane Facebook's presence is and importance is to the country in Myanmar, and how people respond with it. Wild. Okay, so we had 2 problems that weekend. One, Naya was not equipped and prepared, or I was not in a state to make 99 cookies. I was just like freaking out. I was like, oh my God, I don't have enough ingredients, like blah, 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 stressing out. And then the other part was we hadn't figured out how we were really going to do delivery at scale. So my partner at the time was like, okay, like my business partner, she was like, I'm going to do the food delivery and I'll just do it with my own car. And I was like, okay, but Myanmar is quite big. Like it's the size of, it's the size of a generally, like of Melbourne. So a normal metropolitan city. So it's got a lot of suburbs, very large, probably spans like a radius of 160 kilometers. Anyway, it's very large. Maybe 160 kilometers is too much. Don't quote me on that, guys. I'm going to say 60 kilometers. I think I really overshot that. Awkward. Okay, anyway. So we get to making the cookies. I've made the cookies. I had a mental breakdown midway through because I ran out of eggs and I had to redo the batch. It was honestly chaos. And when I have flashbacks to that night, Alex just laughs at me because he was like, you were just like, eggs, the eggs are not okay. Like, it was just like very frantic. Anyway, it was a good learning lesson. And then that weekend we went out for delivery, and honestly, the delivery, and I remember my business partner being like, that was too much. Delivering to like 20 or 30 addresses was way too much. It was super overwhelming. We were really underprepared and just not ready to go to scale. And like, I just can't. It was just so funny. But it was, looking back now, it's really funny. But at the time we were like, we're in too deep. Help us. So after that first weekend, I think we did just make changes every few months. We were like, okay, this needs to change. This needs to get better. We need to get a proper delivery person. We need to like improve the consistency of this cookie, XYZ. And I think we were able to learn really, really fast. But overall, we ended up selling probably about 100 cookies a week. Like that ended up being our consistent. We were approached by Food Panda to sell our cookies on Food Panda as part of their delivery service. And then also approached by some cafes to sell our cookies there. But there was so much that I learnt from that experience, which I'm going to speak to at the end, but I want to also chat a little bit more about like all the hiccups that we had along the way. So there was like cookies. It was really hard to get the consistency of cookies. Sometimes the cookies were like too large, too small. And even though I had made it like to a certain amount of grams, the weather would really like influence how the cookie would, what the result of the cookie was like after it came out of the oven. Because maybe if I was preparing the cookie and not in the same consistent climate every time, maybe the butter would melt a bit, etc. Right? All these things. And so, yeah, I think getting the consistency of the cookies was a bit of a challenge because I didn't have a commercial kitchen and it was like too expensive to rent out a commercial kitchen. And so I think I really struggled with the space and just like only having one oven. It was very small roots at beginnings. And I think scaling it and getting to that point was quite difficult. Tweaking the recipe, like people would be like, oh, it doesn't taste, it's too floury, like it tastes too much dough, you need to like it less sweet, this sweet, like so much feedback from people, and just trying to manage like all these requests from guests was very stressful. And that was a good lesson to learn because like I think when you start a business and you're servicing customers, people are always going to have things to say, but being able to know like what to prioritize, what to take action on is really, really important. But I think at the same time, we didn't have enough data and we weren't at a certain size to be able to really make proper assessments of what to change. Okay, so there's like one really, really funny scenario that happened. So it was around delivery. I think like this happened not long before we kind of stopped the business. But we had ended up getting my business partner's like relative to do the deliveries because they drove taxis and they had a car available. So we would pay him and then he would do the deliveries. But honestly, one time he delivered like all the wrong batches of cookies to the wrong customers. And he had like freaked out in the moment, didn't know what to do and didn't know which cookies to give out. So he called us, but one of us didn't answer. And then he freaked out. So he just started giving out cookies to anybody, like just didn't even read the tick, because we actually like noted on each pack like which cookies were for who, and then he just ended up giving them to everyone. And this was just such a nightmare. We had to like refund people, like do a new batch of cookies for people. Oh, it was just such a nightmare. And I think that was a good lesson learned of just, you got to get your logistics down packed, man. Like it's so hard. I think delivery is super hard generally for any small business. Like I know friends who do floristry. It's really hard to actually get consistent delivery people when you're at a small scale. Like maybe you only have 10 orders a week. How do you sign a contract on with like a delivery company? You don't really. And then how do you get that delivery cost to be not so expensive, but always have someone available? Very, very hard logistics. A difficult space. All right, I'm going to pause now for a peanut butter fact. So I was actually realizing this week that I don't actually know and have never researched about how peanuts are grown. I am honestly such a large consumer of peanuts in generally the peanut butter form, but I don't even know how they grow. Like, what do they look like? So I've researched this week. So peanuts, obviously, most of us have seen peanuts in the shell, right? And then it comes in and you can crack open the shell and you can eat the peanuts, like the raw peanuts in there. But peanuts actually grow on a root. Like they have a sprout, a flower, and then their like root is in the grass, which is kind of wild, right? Not in the grass, in the soil. So yeah, like the seeds are planted and then they harvest it. It takes like 3 to 4 months to harvest, and then for it to grow, and then they'll harvest it. And then for the peanuts that they shell, the ones that they take the shell off, they will dry them for like 10 days and get the moisture out of them, and then voila, you have peanuts. And then they start roasting them and doing whatever they do to them. Or you can also just sell like the peanuts fresh in the pack. In the shell. Honestly, my brain today, sorry, it's like word vomit. My brain's saying something and my mouth is saying something else. I'm sorry. But yeah, so China is actually the world's largest producer of peanuts. Like, so they grow a lot, which makes sense because they have a lot of land. And then they have 37% of the total global peanuts. US only has like 5% of the world's total peanuts, so they are not winning that peanut war. But the rest of peanuts, surprisingly, also grown in Myanmar. A lot of peanuts. Nigeria, Sudan, Senegal, Guinea, Argentina, Tanzania. But yes, I did not know that, but I'm really glad that I now know what peanuts look like. And if you don't know, Google it when it's being grown. Like, how do they grow? Google that. Because I reckon peanuts are just one of those things that just appear in our lives before we, like when we're born, we don't even, without even asking for it, a peanut appears in our life. You know what I mean? It's just like an egg. Same thing. I can't with myself today. Okay, so what ended up happening to the Bite Myanmar? So obviously COVID happened, and COVID was really, really bad in Myanmar. But before that also, the COVID happened, bad in the world, and then the coup happened. So we ended up closing the business because of COVID, but then it just stayed permanently closed because of the coup, as I was never able to get back to Myanmar, which was super sad because I think we were having a lot of fun with the business, and we were growing and we were learning so much from it. And I actually had like a vision to make it into maybe a social impact organization. I was thinking of getting people from impoverished areas and giving them the opportunity to come and like work and train up, like how to learn to bake, and then go out and like, they can get the qualifications and skills at the bakery and then go out and take on other jobs. And that was something I really wanted to do, but unfortunately my time in Myanmar was cut really short, and it was very sad, and I'm still grieving that. But yeah, so it was temporarily closed, but it's permanently closed. But we had a really, really fun time, and that leads me to chatting more about like what I learned overall from my little stint as an entrepreneur and running a bakery. So I learned that entrepreneurship is really, really hard work, but I also learned that it is something that I want to do in the long term. Like, I want to be self-employed. I really enjoyed being able to completely own end-to-end decisions and really go from an idea into actually strategizing and creating that product and implementing it. It was really, really fun. I don't think in the future, I really don't think I would ever do like another labor-intensive business. Having to slave every weekend and make these cookies was so exhausting. And yeah, it was a lot. Like every Saturday night I would just be there like making the cookies, making sure that they were ready to go out. And it was a lot. So, and I just think I appreciate, especially like sourdough bread, croissants. I'm like, I just know how much time it takes and how hard it is to make that damn product, that paying $5 for a croissant is nothing. The amount of time that people go into making it, amazing. But also, I know a lot of people use machines now, but all that stuff, it costs a lot of money. The maintenance is a lot. So labor-intensive work as a long-term, not for me. That's how I feel. I think I learnt definitely learned when I look back and reflect on my experience, and also from reading books and kind of learning more about entrepreneurship is, if you really want to do something properly, you have to really invest. Like there's no point of half-assing this entrepreneurial, there's no point in half-assing this venture that you're going into, because if you really want to make money from something and you want to do it well, you really need to invest the money and the time. And I think I invested the time for sure, but I think on a money front, I didn't invest enough, and I should have just committed more and invested more into it. I don't really regret it for the bite, because obviously the things that happened in Myanmar in terms of COVID and the coup resulted in me being better off not investing too much. But in future ventures that I go into, I would invest more and make sure that I'm more properly, like better set up for marketing, branding, like logistics, like having everything really carved out and know my stages that I'm going to hit before I start to invest more and more. So I think, I would be a lot smarter about it now moving forward. Having learnt what I have from the Bite Myanmar. But I think it was great because it really awakened an opportunity for me to try out something I've always wanted to do, which is start a business. And now I can say, like, I ran a bakery, like it was so fun. I did XYZ, like we made these sales, and sometimes I forget to sit back and appreciate that I actually did that. But it's something I'm very, very proud of, and it was a great experience. And I totally encourage you guys, like out there, if you have an idea or something you want to do, just try it out as a small scale. I think you can get more confident to like invest more, as I was saying, as you actually earn more money and you do get the opportunity to have those sort of funds to support yourself. I think the difficult thing is it's so easy for someone to like start up a business if they come from a background where they are well supported. But I think that's why it's really hard to start things when you're young, if you don't have the money to invest into it, if it's something that you do need to like buy equipment and all this sort of stuff. One other thing that I thought I would share, because I did read about this and I thought it was like a really good point, which was actually there's actually really like no harm in not being a young entrepreneur. Like no one's telling you need to start a business at the age of like 12 or 20. I mean, I know the media really idolizes people who are like young entrepreneurs, and as you get older it seems like less impressive that you started your own business because you're now 35, right? But I think don't listen to that, because I do think at the same time, like if you are nervous about it and you feel like, hey, I don't think I have the experience, it's good to go out there and get the experience. Go like work, have that salary job, do that 9 to 5, learn how hard it is to earn $1, learn like why you want to be an entrepreneur, understand the gaps, like learn those fundamental business skills to really be able to take and implement into your business and grow it the best you can. I don't think you should get bogged down on the fact that like I'm running against the time, I have to start something like right now because I'm 23 and I'm at my prime age and it'd be so impressive. People who do that, it's so great for them, but sometimes honestly people just get lucky and they get a really good idea and they're ready. Like it was good for them, but not for everybody. And I don't think you have to follow that route, that classic route for entrepreneurship, and don't get suckered into that stereotype. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this and it's inspired you to just think a little bit about maybe what it's like to start your own thing. Maybe you completely have no interest, totally fine. Maybe it's something you've thought about, there's a skill that you have that you've thought, maybe that would be interesting. I hope this has given you an insight as to like what that could be like. I took the plunge and tried it out. I thought it was so fun. It's definitely something I want to do in the future and have as a long-term vision in my life. But I know that from my experience, I still have a lot of things to learn to be able to be equipped and ready to really do my next business and really shine in it. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I will catch y'all soon. Bye.